What's up, everybody? How we doing? Welcome to the second installment of the Riverfront Xavier Show, brought to you by the Riverfront Media Network and the Riverfront U podcast feed. I am Tim Daniel. I was supposed to have a guest tonight. Things kind of didn't work out. We're gonna reschedule. Hopefully, we'll have them back on pretty soon. But I did want to make sure I kept the show going. First thing first, thanks to everyone who gave me some love for the Zach Hankins episode last week. That was awesome. Really had a lot of fun talking with Zach, catching up. So the goal is to kind of have more stuff like that, more interviews with Xavier guys, past and present, to kind of talk about their journey with the Musketeers and post Xavier. And I'm working really hard, sending a bunch of requests out, so we can hopefully get a few more things for you. So with that being said, sometimes you got to pull an audible. And what I'm going to do today is kind of just talk about the week that was, though today was not very fun to be a Xavier fan. So we'll kind of discuss that. We're going to get to the week that is with what we have coming up this week and the schedule. So the home game against St. John's and then going on the road next Saturday night to face DePaul. And then I do want to kind of discuss a little bit of Dayvion McKnight and what he's been able to do of late, how big that's been for Xavier, what he's been able to bring to the table. So we're going to touch on those few things during the episode and wing it and see what happens. But before we do get started, I do want to make sure I do my due diligence of saying if you are checking us out here on YouTube and are not subscribed already, please just take a moment to hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment if you're enjoying the Xavier show so far, or if you're enjoying any of our shows, whether it be the Bengals show, Late Night Reds, Red Leg Roundtable, the Riverfront Red show. We have a lot going on. NBA Friday as well that I'm on as well. So we've got a lot of options there for you, depending what you're looking for. If you're checking us out on the Riverfront U feed and have not left a review, please just take a couple seconds to do so. Nice solid 5-star review goes a long way for us. It means a lot as we're trying to grow this brand as a subsidiary of the Riverfront. That would mean a lot as well. And make sure you're also subscribed to all the Riverfront shows and their RSS feeds so you can get our podcasts when they're uploaded then and there. With that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the week that was for Xavier. So Tuesday, they go to Creighton, and really, they played well. I think they played really well. Creighton was just a little better, shot the ball a little better. Xavier had the lead going into half. I thought they were really strong for most of the game, and things just didn't go their way. You kind of saw down the stretch, Creighton was just able to hit those big threes. Guys like Ryan Kalkbrenner just kind of putting the game away. And it seemed like Xavier just couldn't get back on track towards the end there to make it happen. So it was a tough one. It was definitely a disappointing loss because I thought Xavier very well could have won it. And as we kind of go through and we're looking at this point in the year, right? It's bracketology time. It's fighting for your March Madness seed. Obviously, that's a Q1 opportunity on the road, something Xavier really has to get more of, and they were not able to make it all happen. But Desmond Claude had a really good game, 20 points. Thought he was awesome in this game. Really blown away with how he's played of late. Obviously, today withstanding with UConn not being the best day for anybody, but he's been able to kind of grow more and more, and you're starting to see what they need. We're hoping to get from him at the beginning of the year, as far as this guy who can kind of lead. He's the guy who came back. He's the guy in the rotation who was on the team last year. He's the guy that you saw grow in the NCAA tournament. That Pittsburgh game was awesome. So really good games from Desmond Claude of late. Dayvion McKnight with a 20-point game. Like I said, we're going to dive into his scoring recently of late in the next segment. So again, just a bummer because they had a chance to win that game. It's a Q1 game. They need as many Q1 wins as they can at this point. So looking forward to seeing if they can kind of bounce back from that one. Not so much. Today, this afternoon, they go to UConn to face the number one team in the country, the UConn Huskies, a team they played really well against at home a few weeks back, lost by 5. Thought that maybe they saw some things they could do to kind of make this better, and they took their first true conference butt kicking of the year. And it's a bummer. It sucks. And it was a bad day. 99-56 loss to UConn. Dayvion McKnight with 18 points. Quincy Oliveira with 14. On the UConn end, it just seemed like from jump. At one point, the game was way out of hand pretty quick. I mean, it was 48-22 at half. And then they scored 51 points in the second half to Xavier's 34. Xavier obviously being a really good defensive team for the majority of the year. That was kind of surprised to see their defense kind of struggle in this one. You look at guys like Trenton Newton with 22 points, Donovan Kling with 18, Stephon Castle with 12 points and 5 assists. And they got another really nice game off the bench from Solomon Ball, their freshman guard, who had 12 points, with 4 of 5 from the field. How do we look at this game? Obviously, it's a very disappointing Xavier performance. You expect better from them. And I think Sean and his staff would definitely expect better from them. So that part sticks. It wasn't their day, to say the least. But this is a team that when they face these higher upper echelon teams throughout the season, whether it be on the road, at home, neutral site, they've been really good, right? I mean, they haven't won a lot of them, but they've been very competitive. So you look at the Houston game when they had them at home, took them to, played really well with them. Going on the road to Purdue, very competitive in that game. And UConn at home just a couple weeks ago, very competitive in that game. Creighton earlier this week, very competitive there. So this is the first time that they weren't really competitive in a game like this. I mean, other than St. John's on the road, you've kind of seen them be able to fight into every game possible or keep themselves in it with they're just being disciplined defensively. And it just didn't happen. I thought, with this week, obviously coming off the surprise late win against Georgetown, maybe that could carry some momentum, and it did not. So that was kind of a bummer. But I suspect this week coming up, Xavier's going to be able to kind of hopefully bounce back. Like I said, these are games they're going to need. So let's move on real quick before we get into talking about St. John's. I do want to dive into Dayvion McKnight and how his scoring has come along for Xavier. So if you're watching every Musketeer game, you're here for a reason. But starting with Butler, he had 20 points against Butler, 18 against Georgetown, 20 against Creighton, and 20 against UConn today. And earlier in the year, Dayvion was really just doing a lot more of the playmaking, a lot more getting assists, getting the dishes, getting the passes out there. And obviously a lot of that was due to Quincy Oliveri and how well he has been scoring for, months now. But Dayvion really kind of taking more of an edge in the offensive side of the game has been really, really nice for them. You look obviously at so the UConn game was the first UConn game was his last game scoring in single digits, and he struggled to shoot the ball that day. Was 3 of 10 from the field. Since then, has shot the ball really well throughout the, just kind of getting back on track. They go to Providence where Trey Green has that blow up game. I'm sorry, I lied. He had only 8 points against Providence, but he also had 8 assists and 5 rebounds. He's kind of been a lot of stat stuff for the year. So getting this scoring has been huge for Xavier as far as their offense. Sean's kind of talked about the strides they saw in offense. Again, today withstanding, we had to go ahead and make sure we put that in there. Today was just one of those days. It happens. It's college basketball. You're playing the best team in the country. It's disappointing. It's frustrating, but there's nowhere to go but up from there. And so having Dayvion scoring to go along with Quincy's, having Trey Green coming off the bench who can give you that spark when needed, having Desmond Claude who's been able to score the ball really well of late as well. Getting that extra boost has been really, really helpful for the Xavier team. Obviously, going to make things happen a little bit more. They're going to need that, right? Because you got St. John's, you got DePaul, you got Villanova, and you have Creighton at home. You go to Seton Hall, you have Providence, and then you still got 2 more games with Marquette. You still got another Butler game in there. So still some work to do, obviously, and still a chance. I mean, no one's calling them dead just yet. I know 10-10 is not ideal for this circumstance, and to be 4-5 in Big East play is not where they want to be, especially they're tied with Villanova, who they lost to earlier in the year on a close game. And they've got Butler ahead of them. They've got St. John's. So they have a chance this week with these 2 games to make up some ground. And Dayvion McKnight has a lot of chances to help them out with that as well. I fully suspect he's going to keep that going against St. John's. It's at this point, it's a must-win game for Xavier. I don't really know if there's another way to look at it. You really have to go get this one. So I'm excited to see how the team responds to this, how they bounce back, and how they get ready for a Rick Pitino team. And speaking of that Rick Pitino team, let's get ready for St. John's. So they went on a 3-game losing streak going into Saturday when they beat Villanova 70-50. They obviously beat Xavier earlier in the year 81-66. They are currently 13-7 in Big East play and are 13-7 overall and 5-1 in conference play. So let's kind of look at this St. John's team. So like we said, they struggled for a little bit there for a while, and they're now kind of starting to get their groove back a little bit more. Hopefully with that win today, that kind of gets them where they want to go. I think Pitino's done as good of a job as he possibly can. with this team at the points here, but this is a situation where if you look at that first St. John's game, the way they played defense, and they just got hot against Xavier offensively. This is their chance to kind of bounce back and kind of try to make something happen here. And it's a much win, huge scenario where they need to get this game. So I look forward to seeing that as well. Obviously, guys like Joel Soriano, Dennis Jenkins, and RJ Lewis are the big things you got to look to here. But I think a Cintas atmosphere is going to be big for Xavier in this game. It's going to be something where this is Patino's first time coaching year, right? It's his first Cintas Center appearance in the Big East. First time seeing what this is like. So seeing this atmosphere, something that always delivers as a Cintas Center faithful. So they're going to need that for sure. I think that this is going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be competitive. I think Xavier's going to look much better in this game, not only than they did today, but the previous UConn game when they started Big East play. I think it's going to be, they're going to need to kind of have that bounce back, and I think they do that today. I mean, they do that on Wednesday. And then after that, they have a weekend trip to the Windy City to face DePaul. DePaul is 3-15 in the year. They're 0-9 in the Big East. They fired Tony Stubblefield during the season and hired Matt Brady, who has yet to get his first win at DePaul. They're currently on an 8-game losing streak. They have a game on Tuesday versus Seton Hall when they host them. So they're home for both those games. We don't really need to break down the film here. This is obvious. This is, granted, it's another Q4 game, and Xavier's did really well in those, even if that's not what they really need right now. But I can't see any way, shape, or form they lose this game. It's just not. I don't think it's possible. I mean, it's possible, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Sean will let them lose this game by any stretch of the matter. But so that is going to be kind of what to look forward to this week with this team. I'm excited to see how everything pans out. I think it's possible to be a 2-week win. I mean, 2-win week, and it probably has to be to keep everything going. Especially with, like I said, with the road they have coming up and trying to make their NCAA tournament resume look a little better. So I think with that being said, like I said, I didn't have a guest this week and had to kind of audible to make a show happen. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this week's edition of the Riverfront Xavier Show. Just kind of touching base, seeing how things are going. Hoping to bring a guest to you guys next week. I get to keep this going as well. Thank you all so much. Have a good night, and I'll see you then.